Hello everyone, Heavy from Heavy Hammer Bushcraft once again. I did that video the other day about carving tent stakes, and it kind of occurred to me after the fact. Probably should have a little discussion about knife safety because I've done cut myself 100 million times, and I know better. And if you're just getting started in bushcraft, sometimes knife safety is you get a little overconfident. You think to yourself, "I know what the hell I'm doing. I'll be fine. I won't hurt myself." I did that a couple of years ago. You can look at the Instagram page right there with an axe splitting kindling wood. I know what I'm doing. I've done it a million times. I've done it for 35 of the 44 years I've been alive. I know what I'm doing. Pink. 12 stitches later. Yeah. So I just want to kind of discuss that a little bit and a little bit about knife care as well, since I'm right here doing it. And I've got a couple examples of knives with me today. So the weather keeps trying not to cooperate with me this morning. It's sunny and then it's cloudy and then it sprinkles and then it's sunny again. It's just one of those days. So hopefully it'll cooperate long enough for me to get this done. It shouldn't be too terribly long, I hope. But this here, we'll start with the variety of knives that I have and a little bit about knife care. This is the Bushcraft knife that I used in the last video. It's a nice knife. I really like it. Bushcraft makes a hell of a sharp object. They're great. Got the black blade on it. It's not really black. I guess it's blued more than it's black, but it is high carbon steel. Now, if you don't know high carbon steel will oxidize, corrode, and rust if it's not properly cared for, which means when you use it, kind of have to clean it off, oil it, just make sure it's not, you're not leaving anything on there that's going to oxidize and corrode the blade, because you don't want a rusty knife. That's not going to help anybody. As an example of that, probably my favorite knife, my go-to knife that I own, this is a Condor Nessmuck. You can see this knife has been kind of through hell. I have used this thing and beat on this thing. It is 1095 high carbon. It holds a really nice edge. I need to buff it up right now because I haven't used it in a while. But this is probably my favorite knife, as you can tell by the fact that my ferro rod is attached to the sheath, and not terribly oxidized, but somewhat. But you can see there's been a few times out in the bush where I have not properly cleaned it and oiled it before stowing it back in the sheath. So it has gotten a little bit of oxidation. It's generally something you can clean up when you get back home, provided you get right on it and don't like toss it in a corner in your bag or just hang it on the shelf or stick it somewhere and forget about it, which my neurodivergent ADHD brain will just forget about it while I'm doing it. So there is that. So if you want to avoid that, if you don't want to put as much care into your knives, buy stainless steel, not 440C. Don't buy that. It's junk. It's too soft. Doesn't hold an edge. Buy something good. 16 and what is it? 16 and 20, I think, is a good one. Sandvik steel is good. There's a bunch of good stainless steels out there. Just do a little bit of research before you go out and buy a go-to knife. If you don't want to take the time to properly oil it and clean the blade and all that, get stainless steel. There's pros and cons to both. It's some knives just aren't available in stainless. Some knives just aren't available in high carbon. I mean, it could go either way. For me, I've got stainless, I've got tool steel, I've got high carbon, I've got a little bit of everything. So personal preference is going to be the go-to on that one and what the knife is available in. As far as knife safety goes, remember the stick. I carved a stick, and I did several things wrong even in that video. We're going to use the Bushcraft, so we're sticking with the same knife. If you saw me in the last video, let me see if I can get this camera angle focused more on the knife than on anything else here. See what we can do. Come on down just a little bit, right there. There we go. Now, if you saw me in the last video, I was doing this when I was doing the beaver chew on the stick. Now, does this work? You notice that I am cutting towards my thumb, towards my finger, and towards essentially the kill zone, the bad area. Don't do that. Turn your stick around to where you want to cut. Get a grip on your knife. Put your thumb on your backside. Keep your index finger behind where you're cutting, and just press in with your thumb. Just press in just like that. Roll your stick. Do it again. Press in. Roll your stick. And if you just continue doing that, you generally won't cut yourself. Got a nice little beaver chew cut. You know, you can have either end of it. So if you want to, use a little bit of a smudgy end, you've got a smudgy end. If you want the sharp end, you've got the sharp end. Okay. I'm going to do this on a small stick because knife safety is harder on small things, especially with a knife, a good sized knife, than it is on a bigger stick. So the notch that I cut before was the 7 notch. Remember I said tent stake notch, 7 notch, however you want to call it. This is the only time right here that it is really acceptable to have your finger on the back side of the knife. And you have to be gentle. Don't press too hard. Don't rock too much. Because if you go through that thing and it snaps through, it will cut your thumb. The entire tip of that thumb is scar tissue from doing similar, and it still will cut it if your knife is sharp enough, which it should be. So you got your groove cut. Do that right there. Again, put your thumb on the back of the blade, and just eat in. Flick your chunk out. Dig a little deeper down there. When your chunk won't cut, you can take your knife blade like this, roll it across, spit your chunk out, and that will give you your 7 notch. Okay. Knife safety is stupid important because if you cut yourself out in the bush, there's no telling. Get you back up here. There's no telling how far you are from stitches if you need them. And you may have a suture kit on you. I carry them. But a suture kit is only good to use if you can thoroughly clean and disinfect the wound. If you leave chunks of wood and such like that in the wound and stitch it up, that stuff's going to have to come out sometime, and it's going to cause an infection on the way out. So just be mindful of that. Be very careful. And there's so many little stupid accidents that can be avoided just by being mindful of what you're doing with your knife, your axe, any sharp object. Just be very mindful of what you're doing. Just one slip, and now you're missing half of your finger. And if you know anything about human anatomy, there's an artery that runs up each side of your finger. It's a little too deep, and now you've got an arterial cut with an arterial bleed, and you're in the woods, maybe by yourself. Yeah, you can tourniquet that, and as long as it's only one of the 2 arteries in the finger, you'll probably get to keep the finger. But plan for the worst case scenario and hope for the best. That's the best thing I can tell you. Like I said, I got that scar. I don't know how well you can see it right there. There's 12 stitches right there. I was splitting kindling, just testing out my half moon axe, and I knew I was doing it. I knew I was doing the wrong thing. I was holding a piece of wood like this, and I was splitting, dink, 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 and I was moving my hand over as I go. And I thought to myself when I did it, I said, I'm going to cut myself. I should stop. Dink, very next strike. So, Paul Kirtley does some really, really good videos on knife and axe safety, and there's a whole bunch of other creators that have done them as well. I'm not really probably adding anything new to this, but I wanted to document it on this channel just because. I'm talking about knives. I'm going to be talking about cutting notches, doing tri-sticks, different things, bail hangers and such like that you can do. I want to cover knife safety because that way I feel better about it. So don't ever think that you know everything about knife safety. Don't, because like I said, I've been doing this all my life. I've been doing bushcraft since before bushcraft was bushcraft, and it was just what we did. So, and I still, 12 stitches there. I split that thumb just like a month ago on an X-Acto knife, doing the exact same thing I just told you not to do. So, be mindful, be careful, and watch your fingers, watch your kill zone, that triangle from the knees to the groin, that triangle right there. Watch that, because there's femoral artery right there. There's your junk right there, which you don't want to cut. Gut stab, always cut away from yourself as much as you can. There's never really a good reason to cut towards yourself with a blade. So that being said, that's my Bushcraft for Beginner knife safety and knife and axe safety tutorial for the day. I am going to do a video Wednesday on the tri-stick that I was talking about. I will show you a bunch of different notches. If there's interest, I'll break it down, show them by the notch and the shorter videos, and talk about each one and what they're useful for. And then before it gets cold, we'll go out and set up a camp and show you what your first camping experience should be like. And we're going to get to work on the shelter up there soon. I just have to get the weather to cooperate and get some free time so I can get up there and do it. But that's all I got for today. I just wanted to touch base on that knife safety thing so I feel better about it, and I know that you're informed now. So until next time, we'll see you in the bush.